Steve Dotto here. How the heck you doing this fine day? And welcome to Gray Matters, a special edition of Gray Matters, a special truncated short version of Gray Matters, which is on a single topic. Allow me to explain. That topic is Amazon is clarifying their terms of service for their Amazon bookstore, for the Kindle bookstore. And which to many of us is probably going to be a little bit of a surprise as far as our relationship with the books that we are quote unquote purchasing from Amazon. And Amazon is clarifying this, especially in the States, but I believe that this will be going to the rest of the world in the not too distant future. And there's a milestone coming up, which I think people should be aware of. So here is in a nutshell. We'll discuss it in detail with Mike Vardy, which will give you a great deal of clarity, I hope. That's the purpose of this podcast today, is to give you clarity on the topic. But on February the 25th of 2025, Amazon is changing the terms of service in the U.S. bookstore to indicate that you are only licensed with a new book when you purchase a new book, when quote unquote purchase. When you think you're buying a book, you're just licensing it. So it's making Amazon, even though you're buying individual titles, much more like streaming services, where they can actually remove the title from your library should they choose to, which is to a lot of us kind of shocking, and with the current political situation, more than a little bit concerning. Before we panic, recognize that chances are that this is all going to be a tempest in a pot of tea, that there's going to be no changes. Nobody's ever going to notice a difference because none of us read the terms of service anyways. And you're never going to see a book that you purchase probably removed from your library. You don't have imminent danger of your library being truncated of books that you think that you've purchased from Amazon. But they are changing the rules. And with the current political climate and what's going on, I think it's well worth us being aware of this situation. Now, the February 25th cutoff for most of us is kind of a soft timeline where we are going to be from that point forward probably unable to, or with a great deal of difficulty, being able to download the books ourselves and basically remove the digital rights management system so that we could then view it on any device, so that we actually have a copy of it on our hard drive. That's where the challenge lies, the immediate challenge. So with that in kind of setting the stage, let's dive into this quick conversation with Mike Vardy about the changes in Amazon and the Kindle bookstore. So, Mike, what the hell is going on at Amazon?
So it's interesting because I occasionally will scroll through YouTube and such, and I came across a video from Criminali is his name. So he's like a crime enthusiast in terms of crime novels and stuff. And it was Amazon is basically going to be locking in your purchased ebooks into their ecosystem. So I watched the video and I have a Kindle, right? So I'm like, oh, all right, well, what's this all about? And as of February 26th, you will no longer be able to download your ebooks that you've purchased, your Kindle books that you've purchased from the Amazon site, from the apps that you have on your computer, whether it's a Mac or a Windows machine, which means that as of February 26th, essentially any ebooks that you've bought from the Kindle, you will have to now only be able to use on a Kindle. It's a really interesting way to kind of put, a gated paywall or a DRM protection and future-proof that. But the problem is, to me, you've bought the book. That's the problem, right? You're kind of forced into this ecosystem from this point forward.
Let's examine that.
Yeah.
Because my good friend Mike Kozlowski, who is at Good eReader, recently wrote an article. I don't know if you saw his article, but he says Amazon makes it clear that Kindle books are licensed, not owned. And so Amazon has made it very clear that a part of this whole process that they're doing is that you think you've purchased a book, but no, you have licensed a book, which there's the whole DRM issue, which you're going to have introduced to us. But there's a second issue, which causes me even more concern, and that is that Amazon, because they say they've licensed the content to us, they can revoke that license at any point, and they have the ability to be able to remove the books from your system should they choose. And with the current political climate going on in the States, where high-tech company after high-tech company is caving, let's rename the Gulf of Mexico
Mhm.
Let's and the high tech companies just seem to be falling over themselves to line up behind the insanity that's going on. And we've seen in southern states, not even just southern states, in a lot of red states, books
Mhm.
being banned in
Yep.
schools. How soon until they say, that copy of Catcher in the Rye that you've got, we don't think that that's really good for you, and we're going to remove that from your system. And
They
then
they've already done that a couple of times too. So there's other videos out there. I cannot remember who showcased it. It might have been Jared Henderson, but there's a couple others. Animal, I think it was 1984 or Animal Farm disappeared from people's Kindles for a while. Certain versions. Now remember, there's multiple versions of these things that can be out there. And they said it was a technical issue. But that was what kind of lit people up. They're like, wait a minute, I bought this book and
how
now
did
it's
it?
gone.
How could it have gone off, regardless of it was a mistake or not?
Right. I think the language is the problem. And there's a couple problems with it. Number one, um, when you are using a streaming service, say like Netflix or Spotify, it is not implicitly stated in the button that you are buying it. You are adding it to your library or you're adding it to your watch list. It's more implicitly stated. Amazon, of
And
course,
we're used to that on those streaming services because
absolutely.
products come and go. You'll get a notification. This is only going to be available for 19 more days, and then our license for it expires. So
Yeah.
we understand that. We haven't
Yes.
had that. That hasn't been the case for books for us, though.
No, and what's interesting is again, it's in the terms of service, but you and I both know that reading terms of service is not something that many people do, especially when they're looking to purchase a book or purchase what have you. So even if it's in there, there has been precedence for this lack of transparency when it comes to this sort of thing. So I'm curious, and I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but either the language will change, maybe as of the 26th, it won't be buy the Kindle book, it'll be add to your Kindle instead of buy ebook, or add to your Kindle device. Because remember, you
Well,
can have
they're
yeah,
already not saying buy.
yeah,
They're saying their language. You keep talking. I'll look this
yeah,
up
no,
because
no.
Michael.
But what's interesting is again, because there's a lot of confusion around Kindle products too, because there's the Kindle like Kindle Unlimited, which is a version of like, hey, I'm paying for Kindle Unlimited and I can get a bunch of variety of books, which I've used before. But I think it's just this first off, lack of transparency on the fact that they're going to do this. Secondly, I think what's interesting is again, we people assume that when they purchase something and it says buy, and remember, Amazon doesn't sell just Kindles either. They sell actual books and actual other products, that there's some confusion there. Like I have no doubt that there probably will be something that stems from this, whether anything legal or not. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it does, but also Amazon's a very rich company. They could say, fine, we're going to settle and here's a bunch of money and you pay everybody. Like that could happen. But it's just, it is the only way you'll find out is if you want to take your stuff off of your Kindle and put it into, like, say, your computer, which is what the whole idea was. You'll download it off of your Amazon account or off of your Kindle app and put it on your computer because that way you own it. You won't be able to do that anymore. So they're really doubling down on it, which is fine. It's just the way that they're going about doing it. I think a lot of people could stand to be surprised, which is why you're seeing more of these videos pop out and The Verge doing an entire article about it.
And we'll share those links. We'll share those links. Let me just read to you the
Sure.
descriptions. So this is only in the U.S. now, but
Mm-hmm.
Amazon's license, when you clicked on a purchase, it used to say, by clicking on the above button, you agree to Amazon Kindle Store terms of use. Old, and it still says that in UK and Canada, outside of the U.S. In USA now, the text has been changed to say, by placing your order, you are purchasing a license to the content and agree to the Kindle Store terms of use. So they're defining with great clarity that you're purchasing a license, not purchasing the product, not purchasing the book. So that's the situation. And of course, our trust is at an all-time low with all of these high-tech companies. So for those of you that have large libraries of books that you've bought and you're suddenly concerned or just pissed off that you're being kicked out like a football, well, can they still download the books? Can you still get access to your books?
Yeah, until February 26th, you can download your books from the Amazon, Amazon.com or whatever. If you log in, you can manage the content from there and it will give you a warning. It'll say as of February 26th, you will no longer be able to do this. But, and this is where the but comes in. On Mac OS, it's it's impossible to do it because the Kindle app doesn't allow you to download it to your computer. It only allows you to download it within the app, which is still tethered to Amazon's system.
And
So,
there used to be, and they've been
yeah,
revving that app on a regular basis to block that access. So if you're on a Mac, if you're on the
yep.
Apple ecosystem, you could be hooped.
You can't
You
even go
could be
back.
hooped to get your books. Let's just
Yep,
say
sorry.
you could be hooped to get your books from Kindle,
Yes.
from Amazon. Okay.
Yes. So even if you go back and there are instructions to go find the version of the Kindle app that allowed you to do this before that it no longer works. So the way that I'm going to do it, I only have about 40 books on here. So I'm not in panic mode, whatever. If that happens, it happens. But on a Windows machine, it still sees this as a hard drive. It still sees this as a
Okay.
drive,
So
which allows you to pull some stuff. On Mac, it does not. It is. I've not been able to find a way to do it. So you can grab your Kindle books out of your Kindle. My son has a PC, so I'm like, thank goodness he has a PC. So I'm going to be able to pull it off there. Then you can start to, if you wish, and this is where it gets a bit more complicated, run it through a program called Caliber,
yeah, Caliber's been around
Caliber.
forever to
It's
allow
been
us to
around
convert
forever.
formats of books.
Yes, there is a plugin that you can download called DDRM. It's all built into Caliber. It will work with some of the older Amazon Kindle titles, but it will not DDRM some of the newer ones because they've strengthened their DRM, which is digital rights management for those of you that don't know what that means, which basically kind of locks it into that, it stops piracy and those sort of things, which is a good thing in situations where piracy is taking place. But in this situation, it kind of feels like, again, you're kind of shoehorned into an environment that you
They're
may not
telling
want to
us.
stay with.
Here's the irony: is they're
Yeah.
telling us they don't trust us,
Yep.
which is causing us to be untrustworthy.
Yes. It's such
Because who far be it from us to recommend people look up a tool like a Z library and then choose the books that they've purchased and download open versions of it or convert them into EPUB format so that they can have them on their e-reader of choice.
Yep.
Far be it from us to recommend that. We wouldn't recommend that at all. I'd have no idea if people could do that.
No.
Or my path, I'm selling my Kindle. I'm just getting out of the ecosystem and I'm going over to Kobo. I don't know if Kobo will be better for long, but it sure is a compelling reason to tell Bezos and Amazon to take a hike.
What you'll also, I want to stress this because there's a lot. If you have a big library, you can't just do this as one bulk pull. You have to pull each title individually. So it's really important to know that it's more important to get it out of your device or out of Amazon, for example, don't worry about the DRM removal. Again, don't worry about that if you want to. And by the way, DRM removal isn't always used for, piracy. It's often used for sharing. And Caliber has plenty of other ways that is being used. You can convert a EPUB to a PDF. Authors use it all the time to get different modalities. So it's not, you can use any tool. A lot of tools can be used for different purposes, but Caliber is not let's use this to steal.
It's not a straight up hacking tool. It's a conversion utility that allows us to convert file formats, much like Handbrake on video that we use it to convert videos for the appropriate format that we want.
Exactly. So if you're sitting here going, I have a really big library, what am I going to do? How do I convert? Just get them out of there. That's the step you need to take before February 26th. After that, you can wait if you need to try to get them onto, say, a Kobo, or you want to get them into, maybe you want to get them into Apple's books ecosystem. Maybe that's what you want to do, because that's just an EPUB, which is a widely used format. You can do that, but you don't need to do that right away. The key here is you have a few days, as of us recording this, to get things out of the Kindle environment, the Kindle ecosystem, if you want to, so that way you can put it wherever you want it to be afterwards. Because like you said, Steve, you could have bought a book before the change to their terms of service that you think you'll have forever. And then one day you'll be like, where'd that book go? How come I don't have access to it anymore?
Yeah. And while the odds of that are admittedly remote, the fact that they're putting the systems in place to allow that to happen is, I think irresponsible. I think it's well, I guess I guess a little bit of it, Mike, is the fact that when they first began releasing ebook formats, they really didn't have an idea of how to control piracy and sharing. And I mean, we can see it extending
Napster
into the,
when it comes to music, Napster anyone, same thing.
yeah,
Now the difference is you already know that, hey, I'm paying for a streaming service. I'm not paying for ownership.
yeah,
Steve, you also have more options with music too. There's Apple Music, there's
yeah,
Spotify, there's Tidal,
yeah,
there's Amazon Music.
yeah.
Whereas with books, Amazon is the primary. Like no one is even close.
It is. So did you say you're moving over to Kobo?
Yeah. It's funny because my wife's had a Kobo for a long time, and I've always been like, "Oh, I love my Kindle." Da, da, da. And of course, and by the way, I do love a lot of what the Kindle ecosystem offers. But we know one thing that I'm actually looking forward to when I move to a Kobo: the
Library
access to
books.
Libby. Yep,
Libby, library books.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
the difference maker. That's
yep,
the difference maker.
yep.
And so, which is good, I think, good for our public library systems. I mean, we've got an excellent public library system here in Canada, where
Hmm.
both you and I live. And my wife uses the Libby. My daughter uses the Libby system. They're all Kobo avid Kobo fans. So, you know, again, we it's not like we're giving you a solution. It's
No,
just I think everybody needs to be aware of the situation, aware of how they are being affected by the decisions that are happening south of the border, and it is passing curious, is it not, that this is happening at this particular time when there is so much.
acrimony.
Yeah, and it just the relationship between government and enterprise is at an all-time strangeness.
Yeah, and I mean, to be clear, I'm not. This is not a doomsday button scenario. It's funny because I remember when I talked about the Evernote situation a while ago. People were like, "Oh, Mike, you're. I can't believe you're so negative about Evernote, et cetera, et cetera." And for me, it's just about creating awareness because I mean, there's so much going on in people's lives that this is not something that people would typically pay attention to, and that's why when I stumbled upon, I'm like, I shared it with my own community. And I dropped you a line about it. I said, hey, we should probably talk about this because I don't think, I mean, it's just something that could fly out of the radar. And unfortunately, there is a timeline to it that's rather
Yeah.
speedy. So you need to, if you want to do something with this, now you know what you need to do.
Now is the time you can do something about it at phase one.
Yeah.
Bare minimum, if you've paid attention this far, good on you. Checklist of things to do. We'll share a couple of articles with you that will explain where we stand. And now that you're informed, you'll be able to monitor the situation a little bit more as it evolves. And there will be moments where somebody releases a product that overcomes the issues, and it might be only available for a couple of months or until litigation happens. But there will be different opportunities to get access to what you believe you own morally. As well as there are, as we mentioned, other services where we can all, you and I'd never have to buy a book if we don't want to. We can find them all for free. And so if I bought a book, I don't really feel all that bad if I happen to download it from a site that where others can get it for free as well.
But the other thing really quickly is that as authors, like the kind of stuff that happens here, there's a whole other side of that. We're not going to get into that, but that's another thing to consider because as soon as this policy goes into effect, people might be less likely to use Amazon to buy ebooks, which means because they're not buying them. So we'll see. But I mean, this is not just a one and done issue. There's a lot of layers to it.
Or opportunities open up for new services that are a little less
stringent,
socially antagonistic.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Mike Vardy, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
My thanks to Mike for filling us in on this what could be a fairly confusing topic. You can find our podcast Gray Matters on all of the normal podcasting apps, but we're also on YouTube, so I encourage you to check us out on YouTube at the Dottotech site. The beauty of being on YouTube is the comments on YouTube is a great place for you to let us know what you're thinking, what you'd like to see more of, and ask us questions and engage in a civil conversation about this and any other topic relating to baby boomers and Gen Xers. Until next time, I'm Steve Dotto. Have fun storming a castle.